Most people open Notion once and just get overwhelmed and then close the app forever. I was the same when I first started, but then I saw multi-million pound companies actually running through Notion. I decided enough was enough and I'm going to learn how to actually use it. In this video, I'm going to show you some of those best features so that you can actually start using it to its full capabilities rather than just staring at a blank page and hoping your business will be successful. Do you want a kickstart on that? I've made a content planner that you can plan all of your content, have it all in the one space, and it's completely free. So yeah, the link's down below. I was in Glasgow yesterday with a client. He'd actually flew up from England to be able to get some help with Notion itself and understanding it. And I was taking him through some of the areas and he was absolutely blown away because he'd used Notion before, but he'd never actually saw what it was capable of. And that was because, just like most of you, you'll see it as a blank page and think, I actually don't know what to do with this. So I've got a few things that if you are serious about using Notion for your business, that I'm going to show you today on sort of how to use and how to look at it in a little bit of a different way. And if you implement these into your business, everything will run smoother and you will be able to be way, way better at what you're actually doing when it comes to your business. The first one we're going to talk about is AI meeting notes. Now, Notion recently released AI meeting notes, essentially being able to transcribe your meetings or anything that's going on. Now, I found not only has this been incredible for meetings, it's amazing for analyzing your own thoughts. And one of the big benefits of AI that you should be using it for is getting your thoughts onto somewhere that it can then be turned into something, whether that's client feedback, whether that's something that you're working on for your content or more. So inside of Notion, you can actually transcribe just your voice with what's going on. So you can do this for meetings, you can do this for you just generally talking into it, you can also do it on your phone. And what I've actually built here, this was something that I'd built previously, and there's another video that goes through exactly how to build this, is essentially just taking my thoughts, and I've got these questions that I would ask inside of the journal. And after that, I've then got it to use an AI block to break down my thoughts inside of that transcription. So I'm talking right now about this video that I'm creating, about what I'm doing and what I'm wanting to do. I'm wanting to showcase the best features in Notion that you can use in order to push your business forward. And inside of this transcript, it's just taking what I'm saying. It's taking what I'm doing, and eventually it's going to have the notes and everything that I'm doing. So if I stop this now, it is going to summarize everything that I've spoken about. Seen people talk about this when Notion first introduced AI meeting notes, but inside of this, it's now just taken what I've actually used and has given me some use cases, a system overview of what I was doing, showcasing Notion's transcription. And it's been pretty good when it comes to the accuracy of hearing my voice and what I'm doing. Now, you've got to remember, I'm Scottish. So when it comes to transcription services, these are not always the greatest. Scottish accents are extremely hard to pick up. So it's most likely going to be able to pick up what you're saying. Now, what I've done here is I've then added an AI block that is essentially using a professional copywriter stance as the character and turning this into potential areas that I could work on in the business. Now, yeah, because I didn't speak that much, there's probably not much to go off of. But when it's giving me some content ideas, it's obviously talking about some proactive systems, the importance of structured journals, and then it's giving me some scroll stop and hooks as well. It gives me the ability to just use my notes that I'm taking in a general day-to-day or meeting notes with a client and turn these directly into something that I can actually use in my business to improve my business in anything that I'm doing. This is one of those things that over time, the more that you do this, the better knowledge it's going to gain on what you talk about, who you're like and what you're about. Now, another added benefit to this is if you are using some sort of meeting notes or anything that you're doing, you could take that transcript, you could put it into a learning model where it's learning everything about you and everything with what you do and how you speak and how you act. And again, that's going to help push the business forward. But I do not see enough people using the AI meeting transcription or even enough people talking about it right now. So get on actually using it. Next, what we're going to talk about is what Notion is actually built on, and that's databases. Most people think Notion is just pages after pages of what you're going to be creating. So inside of each of your pages, you'll just do a new page and then you're going to type in your header, and then inside this one, you're also going to do a new page. So you're going to do /page and then go in again and again and again. And all you're going to end up with is just an absolute clusterfuck of pages that don't really do anything. What we want to do is we want to create our systems on the back of databases. Now, using the / command, first, if you're not aware, the / command basically gives you everything that you can possibly do inside of Notion. But if we type in databases, this is where we can create basically anything that we're wanting inside of these databases. You'll see up above, we've got our client database where we've got name, email, the roadmap, their traffic light system, their date joined, the number of days they've been in the company, the number of months they've been in the company. This gives us the ability to use these to our advantage across multitudes of different areas. Because one of the things that we can do with databases that we can't do with pages is we can link specific views from one page into another. Databases are the literal powerhouse of what Notion is and what it is capable of doing. Everything can be built inside of databases, and when you do that, they can talk to one another across your whole Notion. So when you're using a page, yes, you can mention it in other pages. If I add here, I can then mention certain pages that I'm wanting to do. However, I can't actually link specific views of databases that are not even on this page into here. And getting to know databases and getting to understand databases is going to transform your game when it comes to Notion. Because you can see in here in this tasks area, I've got tasks, the status, the priority, the due date, who it's assigned to. But then in the next database over, I've got all of the active clients that I've currently got. And this is shown in different ways. You'll see these are all roughly the same thing. They're just shown in different ways. But because I can see them, this again is a database. It's just a certain link to that database. It's shown a chart instead of a table. And this has given us so much power for what we're wanting to do. So let me take you through what you should maybe understand when you're creating databases. On the right-hand side, you've got the ability to add all of these properties. So there's a ton of things that you can add. We've got dates, we've got files, URLs, just basically what you would have saw from any other platform that does this type of thing. And inside of here, you can really have endless possibilities of what you're building inside of those databases. So don't neglect them just because they're a little bit scary. Take the time to actually understand what a database is, how it functions, and how it works. And this will just give you such an easier way to create more databases that are going to benefit you. And if you're wanting maybe some ideas of what you can start with, think of a clients database, think of a calls database, think of a notes database, think of a potential task database if you want to do project management in here. These are the ones that we can start with. And now with the ability of Notion AI, you can ask it to build you a database for managing lists, tracking habits, saving memories, setting goals. And it's actually pretty good at doing that. So if you're a little bit uneasy of doing it yourself, tell it what you want it to build and it will actually provide you something that is pretty good for what you're doing. We've covered the core of what Notion is and how it should be built on, like where you should be getting your building blocks from. But you maybe want to take it to that next stage and kind of see it in a different way, because not everyone learns on just a table the way that we're seeing it here. Notion has a lot of customization when it comes to what we're actually doing. And I'm going to show you ways in which we can group specific tasks and specific areas inside of Notion itself to be able to see sort of what's happening and how we're doing it. Now, the first ones that we're going to look at is the filtering views here. So up the top at this bar inside of Notion, we have the ability to change filters, sorts. We can have automations that run up in this top bar. And I do not see enough people actually using this to its advantage. Because if we have things like all tasks, we probably don't want to see tasks that are complete. Because if we see the ones that are complete, then this just gets messy really, really quickly. So what we can do is inside of the filters, we can select what filter we're wanting. We're going to select the status and we're going to make that the status is the to do or in progress. And that means when we select something that is complete, that actually disappears. And you might be thinking, okay, well, if it disappears, I still want to see the ones that I've completed. Maybe you've made a mistake. Maybe you want to check up on how things are going. And this is where we can create new views of the databases themselves. So we've got all of the tasks. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this and I'm going to duplicate the database. And I'm going to name this completed tasks. So right now we've got two of the same databases showing the exact same thing. But what I want to do with this one is instead of in progress and not started, we're going to have done. And that means we are now seeing the ones that we are in progress. So fixing the kitchen cabinet is now complete and it's now inside of the tasks. Changing the views to work in your favor is one of the best things that you can do, because you might not work in the way that someone else might work and you might want to see things in different ways. That's why maybe if I want to group this database based on the level of priority, you can also do that, because in this settings menu, you have the capability of grouping this based on anything that you want. So I'm going to group it by the level of priority. And what you're going to see now is it laid out in levels of high, medium, and low priority, or no priority if there's none that's there. So if we change that to low, you'll now see this is here. And we can change this order as well if we're wanting to within this group. So again, it's taking that to the next step of actually seeing Notion in a different way and in a way that works for you. Maybe you prefer the Kanban board, the way that Trello does it. So in the layout feature in the settings, you just put it as the board. And now you've got the high, medium, low, and you see that it's grouped by the level of priority. And again, we've done the exact same. And then you're thinking, well, Andrew, I want to see the dates that these need to be complete by and who's also responsible for completing them. So we come into the settings again, we look into the properties that are visible, and we have assigned to and the due date. Meaning that when we actually assign a task to someone, so let's just assign this to me, and I'll put this in progress, we can now see my name coming up and fixing the kitchen cabinet. Notion really is endless on what you can do. There's 8 different layouts that we can see this exact same database in multitudes of views. You can have a load limit of 100 if you want to. I usually recommend keeping it lower. You can color the columns. You can then also show different ones if you want to. If you want the priority in here, if you want the status in here, if you want the clients that it's linked to in here, you can have them all in here, or you can hide them all. You can have subgroups, you can have groups, you can sort them based on anything that you want. There really is endless possibilities of what you can do and how you want these to look. Problem is, not enough people take the time to actually learn these and see how they work. And that's why Notion is confusing. Because like any platform, if you commit a bit of your time, you will find the power in what is needed. Now, Notion won't work for everyone, and that's totally fair. Because if you're someone that doesn't like to be creative and you want just something to tell you this is how you do it and you do it this way, then another platform is going to be way better for you. But if you like to have the customization, you like to have the ability to trial and test different things, to have different database linked views of different places, using your team to all work under one roof, this is something that can be heavily beneficial when built in the right way. So we now know about databases and we now know about how we actually want to view those. So what about the more powerful things that we can do, where we can connect different apps to Notion itself and use the information we're getting in Notion to ping out to different places, or vice versa if we're wanting to? Well, this is where we start to look at things like automations. Now, inside of Notion, automations have become way better over the last probably 6 months or so. But one of the things that I love that they've added, especially for teams, is the actual action of sending emails, sending webhooks, and sending Slack notifications. First, I'm going to take you through some of the automations that you can do inside of Notion and some of the powerful ones that I like to use when it comes to clients that I work with. And then I'm going to show you some of the other ones that you can do outside of Notion. So pinging webhooks to make.com or Zapier, sending Slack notifications to your team, and exactly what this is going to do. Show you inside of Notion first. What we're going to do is that if we were to add a new client to this page, we want to have a task about the onboarding stuff. So when this happens, we're going to simply add a page to the tasks for YouTube. And inside of this tasks, we are then going to customize how we want this to look. So it's going to be new onboarding tasks. And that's what we're going to name it. We're going to have the status of not started. We're going to have the level of priority as high. We're going to have the due date as the date triggered. And we're going to have assigned to as myself. And you can also put whoever triggered it or the page creator. So we'll put whoever triggered for this time. When we enable this and we create a new page inside of this area with the new client that's come on board, inside of the tasks space, we'll actually put this into a different view so that we can see it a little bit easier. But in this task space, what you'll now see is the new onboarding task that has come up here of July the 16th for myself for the new onboarding task. And to take this a step further with what you're seeing, you might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually relate this to that client before and to that client that I've just created? Because you maybe want to actually have those clients showing up in all the tasks that you're doing for them. Well, this is where things like relational databases come into play, and where I can link the active clients and the retention to the task list itself. And that means anytime I create a client and anytime I have a task, I can actually link that task directly to the client's database, because you'll see here all of the tasks that are already related to this client in particular, with the onboarding call to be scheduled. What this means is inside of the automation, we can then link the clients for YouTube to the trigger page that's happened, essentially meaning that we are going to link whatever new client has come on board to the task that we've actually created. Where relations come into play is being able to connect all of your different databases to one place and being able to see an overview of everything that's going on. Because if I take you to my Notion training facility and I look at the active clients, what we've done inside of the template is we've essentially related multiple databases to a particular client. So all of the client calls can be seen in here, all of the projects, all of their tasks, all of their completed tasks, and any client testimonial that this particular client's done will show up in here. So if we create a new page in this space, and we'll just do it again at tester, then what we can see inside of here is all of the content that we've done for them. So if we have a new testimonial, we've got it for this content. If we've got any client calls and we have that new client call with it, we've then got a call template that's happening here. But this is where Notion becomes really, really powerful, because instead of going in and out of pages and in and out of spaces to find what you're looking for, you can come directly into this client's page and see all of the things on their tabs of what they've done, what they're working on, and what you're doing for those particular clients, or any calls that you've had with that client, because these are using all templated stuff to actually show, okay, what's going on and what was this call about, meaning that all of your team can be on the same page really without you doing much more work. So now we know the automations that we can run inside of Notion. We've got tons more that we could actually do, and I could create a whole video on all of the automations and the triggers and stuff like that that can happen. But now what I'm going to show you is some of the other automations that you can do, where if we've got a page added into the client's database, we can send emails to particular people. So inside of that client's database, if they have an email address that you've got inside of there, you can send an email from your email itself with all of your messages, with sending replies to particular areas, and you can send a welcome message, you can send an informational message, you can really do anything you want with that email and how you're wanting to do it. You can then also send a Slack notification to yourself. So inside of Slack, you can select any Slack channel that you want. It could be for your new client on board if you've got a team that work with you, and you can send custom messages inside of that. So you can send new client has signed, this is their name, here's their Notion page. Go and check it out, make sure that everyone is starting off the onboarding process with what we're wanting to do. And finally, now with what Notion's released is their ability of sending webhooks. So you can now send webhooks to particular places if you're running automations outside of Notion too. You can look at all of the information that it's given, and you can basically use that to build really, really powerful things for your business. But Notion really does become an endless tool of possibility when you start to learn how you can use all this to your advantage. If there's questions that you have for it, put them in the comments, because I want to know what questions you have as a business owner to actually take your Notion to the next level, so that I can create videos for you and so you can actually see how you can do it yourself. Final one that we're going to touch on here is actually the additional things that we can do inside of Notion, are less commonly used but are actually really, really powerful. And this is formulas and rollups. If we start with the rollups, all that a rollup really is if you have a task in here where you've got the fix the kitchen cabinet and you've related this to Craig's client portal, you can then showcase something that's in here inside of your other database as the rollup. So if I show you what I mean, we've got task 1 in this space for George with what he's wanting to do. Now, if I add a rollup property, what it's going to ask me to do is to select a database that we've got related to the client's database, which is the task 1, which we see here. And then we can select the property that's inside of the task database itself that we want to see. So for that task 1, what I would love to see is the status. And that means for task 1 for George, I can see that the status is in progress. And this is really good for a few things that you're wanting to bring in. Maybe you're wanting something like an email. Maybe you're wanting something like their phone number, where you don't have to put new things in again and again and again and again with what you're doing. The final thing we're going to touch on is the formulas. Now, inside of Notion, again, there is an absolute ton of formulas that you can do, and a whole plethora of videos that you could do when it comes to formulas itself. One of the ones that probably stands out is if you're creating automations for tasks, you can make that the task due date is 7 days after the task has been started, meaning that if you have the task for today, it'll be a week from now that it actually needs to be complete. That's one of the best ones to do. Another one that I really love is the retention data for clients. So basically seeing how long they've been with you. You want the actual formula, here it is. You're just looking for the date between date left and date joined, and then it's giving you a number. But there is so much that you can do with this. I'll even show you one that I did for a client where we're essentially mapping data from one space to then filter it to this particular month, and then looking at the sum of that particular month's data. You can go from something where you just put quotation marks and you say, I want this to say tasks. You can map relation fields and get the sum of them for particular months. There really is endless possibilities with them, but formulas is something that I don't see utilized that much and is genuinely really powerful. Probably keep saying this in every video that there's so much to learn when it comes to Notion, and it is the case. But like anything, the more time that you put into something, the better you're going to become at it. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to scale your company using something like Notion. I want you to be able to understand that it's not as scary as it seems to be, and that you can actually learn it. And if you're wanting to get started with that and take your content game to the next level, I've got a full content planner that you can get. I'll put it in the first link in the description. I've got some other things in there as well if you're looking to scale your company with systems, which you can take some advice from the learning experience I've had over the last 3 years helping people with this. And it's genuinely one of the best things that you can do to scale without so much chaos. I know the video on the screen right now will be something you'll love to watch, so I'll see you there.